Welcome back to John Redmann, Power of Attorney. We're talking about how to better understand your financial strategies with COVID-19 and the shutdown of the economy. I'm pleased to have certified public accountant Tom South join us. Tom has been on the show before to talk about financial matters for individuals and businesses, and he is one of the top recommended experts out there. Tom, welcome back to the show.
Good afternoon, John. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you're here. So let's get right to it. Let's start with you telling us, what is this CARES Act and what help does it offer individuals and businesses?
Well, the CARES Act is all-encompassing. The CARES Act stands for the Corona Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. And it encompasses many different things with regards to the relief for businesses that are really hit hard by this pandemic. I'm going to cover, in general terms, the provisions of the Act. You know, as everyone knows, the first big provision is the Payroll Protection Plan. The next provision is the Employee Retention Tax Credit. The third provision is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. And then we have the Sick and Family Leave Act. And then we have the deferral of the employer share of the payroll taxes. And there are other provisions, but those are the main topics. And I'm going to go back and hit on each one of those specific topics. The Payroll Protection Act is probably, and it's referred to as PPP, but it's Payroll Protection Program. That is meant to give businesses relief during this pandemic and time of crisis, in that it's a mathematical calculation. You can take your 2019 payroll divided by 12 times 2.5%, and that will be the amount of the loan that you could possibly qualify for. And I use the term loan, it's actually a grant that could be forgivable depending on the mathematical calculations at the end of an 8-week period. The problem that we're having with that particular program right now is, I'm sure a lot of your viewers and you have seen this morning, and when we even started talking with the financial institutions, the money was going to run out quick. As of the news reports this morning, it appears the money has run out. But hopefully there will be a second phase of funding of $250 billion, which we will pick that up in the very near future.
So I don't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead and conclude.
No, you go ahead.
All right, so this CARES stimulus package is just, it's one of the major forms of financial relief. There are other loans you alluded to, the EIDL or Economic Injury Disaster Loan, that is related to the forms of relief you just discussed. And I know it can get confusing to a lot of people. And one of the blockbuster bits of news that's just coming out is people who are eligible to get loans from the government to help their businesses stay afloat. Apparently they just ran out of money, is what you're telling us, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So tell us, what do people who didn't get that loan yet, or they applied and they didn't get the money, they didn't get the word the money's on the way, what can they do?
We're advising our clients and the contacts that we have with the financial institutions, and the financial institutions are telling them exactly the same thing. Continue the application process. Get the application in and in line for the next round of funding. Make sure all the documentation is put forth and ready to go when the next level of funding is available. And just remembering that the Payroll Protection Act is one, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan is another phase of the CARES Act, and that you can't get both of them. You can get one and the other.
All right, well, you bring up a couple of really good points. Number one, it sounds like the early bird got the worm. The people who applied immediately and promptly were at the front of the line, and they used up the first, couple of $100 million or whatever.
$349 billion.
Right. They burned through that money right away, and that's just a fraction of the businesses that were available. So your advice to your clients, a lot of people come to you to help them make sure the forms are filled out right so they can maximize the money they get and repay the least. Is that accurate?
Correct. At the end of an 8-week period, we're going to run through a calculation to determine how you use the money, whether it was on payroll costs, rent, mortgage interest, or utilities.
Okay.
And then we can determine the forgiveness part of the Payroll Protection Program grant that's given.
Okay.
And if there is a part that has to be rolled into a loan, it's going to be a payback of 2 years at 1% or 0.98%.
Okay.
Where the economic injury disaster loan is a 30-year amortizable loan at 3.75%.
All right. So I want to make sure that I'm keeping up with you, and hopefully others are keeping up with you. If you didn't get any of that first big pot of money, you should be applying right now, so you're at the front of the line, or as close to the front of the line as you can be, for the next pot of money, which we hope the government is going to create, so you can be close to that front line. Hopefully you'll get money the next go round, correct?
Correct. That's a true statement, yes.
Okay.
We're advising our clients to get the application in, get it signed, and have it in the bank's hands, remembering that the payroll protection program is handled by the lending institutions that do business with the federal government, and the economic injury disaster loan is handled by the SBA specifically.
And you mentioned one other important thing. You mentioned several things, but another one that I caught is there's that loan application process, but then there's this economic injury disaster loan, the EIDL loan, which is a separate loan application, and you can't apply for both. You got to apply for one or the other, correct?
Correct. You cannot use the same cost in applying for the loans. You got to use either the cost for the payroll protection or the economic injury disaster loans. You cannot use the same cost.
Okay, and unfortunately we have limited time, but can you sum up briefly why you would apply for one or the other? Is that something you really have to look at people's finances to guide them on that?
That's one of the issues, and one of the points we stress to our clients and the individuals that have retained us specifically. We have to look at specifically what fits your needs. The economic injury disaster loan gives you an immediate injection of cash of $10,000, where it was until they changed the program. When they started running out of money, they limited it to $1,000 per employee. So, but the economic injury disaster loan helps with your fixed cost over a period of time. And again, it's just like making a loan from the SBA, where the payroll protection reimburses you immediately for your payroll costs, related rent, mortgage interest, and utilities. And that's the forgivable loan.
Okay, and that's a change that just happened in law literally in the last business day or two, where it was a minimum of $10,000, and now if you only have 2 employees, then it might be $2,000. Or if you have 5 employees, it might be $5,000. But if you have 20 employees, you can count on getting at least $10,000, and that pot of money is still there. That pot of money is still there, right?
Correct.
Okay, and you mentioned having clients and people who consult with you, your CPA firm, to get guidance on how to fill out these forms. There is a fee that's charged, but it's limited, and it's drastically limited by the SBA, correct?
Correct. There is a limit on the fee, which is $2,500, and it's the maximum fee that you can charge on helping a client fill out the application and providing all the applicable documentation.
Okay. And that's one piece of useful information. We want to make sure everybody out there who pays attention to this hears this. There are others out there who may want to guide you to tell you how to get money and maximize your money. It doesn't matter if you're going after this loan, that loan, some other magic bullet to get you the money and cut the line or whatever they're promising you. They get at a max $2,500. It doesn't matter if you're applying for $20 million, and we've heard word of 1 or 2 businesses around here getting their $20 million where a lot of people got none, or $10,000. The max fee that can be charged is $2,500, no matter how much loan money is being gone after, correct?
Correct. That's from the SBA. You can have an arrangement with a client to charge the client directly, but I don't know of any CPA firm that's doing that specifically.
And otherwise, the arrangement is you'll get paid when the loan money comes in?
Yes, when the loan money is funded.
Okay. And all right, well, I think we've covered that. I want to ask you a different question, because we have gotten questions from a lot of different viewers. One question asks, how will people who do not have checking accounts be able to access stimulus money if they apply and are awarded the money?
Oh, but based on the current guidelines, the direct deposit is the preferred method, of course, from the Internal Revenue Service to issue the money. But paper checks, based on the current readings, will be issued eventually. and that term eventually is unknown. They're looking at May, maybe, as far as issuing checks, it may be later than that. But individuals who do not file or have not filed a tax return in the past, they can log on to the Internal Revenue Service website and go to Get My Payment and update their deposit information if they do now have a checking account, and get the funds deposited in the checking account. Right now, 80 million Americans have received the stimulus check. And there's about 128 or 30 million people that file tax returns, plus the individuals on Social Security. And as you know, the individuals on Social Security and other non-taxable income, they're also going to receive the stimulus check.
All right, thank you. The next question says, if I owe back taxes, is the IRS going to confiscate my stimulus money?
That's a great question. And when you look back at the history of the Internal Revenue Service and look at the answer that's in the CARES Act, the answer right now is no, they're not going to confiscate your stimulus package. This is one of the very, very few times in the history of any type of stimulus where the government has suspended most administrative requirements. The only issue that in the readings that I have is that if you owe back child support, you're not going to get the stimulus package. But if you owe student loans, past due student loans, or past due taxes, you are going to get the stimulus check, which I think is extremely great.
Wow, that's great. So next question, and you may have answered this to some extent, but let's see if we can answer it directly. How can business owners apply for loans from the SBA?
Well, one of the big issues here, there's two facets of the major components of the loan process. One is the payroll protection, which is done through the local lender, and the other facet is the economic entry disaster loan. That's done on the website for the SBA, and believe it or not, it is fairly user-friendly. The SBA works with the local lenders to provide the lenders with small business loans. The SBA does not lend money itself. It just works with lenders specifically. So you can log on to the site, file the economic entry disaster loan, or you can fill out the payroll protection program loan and submit it directly to your lending institution.
And so, and I've looked at these forms too, and I've done some, in my law firm, we've done some guidance of people applying for these loans as well. The forms are fairly straightforward. Is it sort of user-friendly or dummy-proof, or is there some risk that people are going to be have to do follow-up after they file the loans, or there's a risk that they won't get everything that they're entitled to if they try and do it without having the guidance of a financial advisor such as yourself?
From a user standpoint, it's fairly user-friendly. Where the problem comes in is supplying the documentation required to substantiate or move the loan process forward. That's where we're finding most of our clients are having problems, whether it's payroll tax returns, current payroll, or prior year tax returns, or gross revenue, or cost of sales. There's many component pieces of the loan application that need to be supplied both to the SBA and also with the payroll protection plan. Okay. For the SBA for the economic disaster injury loan, okay, and also the PPP through your local lending institution. So it's a follow-up. And not only is it the follow-up on the application, when we in the eight-week period with the payroll protection plan, we have to true up the cost and tell the individual lending institution and the SBA how did we use the money, whether it was for payroll, and there's a requirement that 75% of the money has to be used for payroll costs, and the other 25% to be used for utilities, rent, mortgage payments, etc. Okay. So at the end of the 8-week period, there's going to be another hurdle to cover where I believe every individual who applied is going to need some financial assistance.
Okay. I want to get to business interruption claims, but before that, just so we're clear, if you are unincorporated, you're a sole proprietorship. In other words, you haven't incorporated, but you run a business, and it's a business you run. You drive for Uber or whatever. You haven't incorporated. You can file a business. You can file for a business loan as well. Correct?
Correct. You can file the payroll protection and it's normal, just like a normal incorporated business. And that was a change of late with regards to who can apply.
Okay.
Individual partners in a single member LLC or a small LLC, a husband and wife, can apply as part of that process. Uber drivers, subcontractors that are construction workers, et cetera, they can apply. But it's the same process that a business uses.
Okay. And very briefly, some people have what's called business interruption insurance. There's a debate going on in the news. Some people say your business interruption insurance will not pay for this. If you can make a business interruption claim, that would be separate and apart from making a request for loan through the CARES Act or through the EIDL loans. Is that your understanding as well?
Correct. That's my current understanding, that the business interruption insurance will replace the loss of net profits due to this pandemic specifically. We're advising our clients, number one, to review their insurance policies and seek legal counsel with regards to how their policies specifically read. I have not read or heard of anyone filing a business interruption claim as we speak today.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Tom South, CPA. Very, very instructive.